What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and this is interesting. The Fed releases long-awaited study on a digital dollar, but doesn't take a position yet on creating one. Now, this is something I've truly believed is going to happen, and not just believe, but look at what's happening around you. We're in a highly digitalized society where we use Venmo, we use PayPal, we use Zelle, we use all sorts of apps that help move money a lot faster. And you don't have to depend on your banking institution to move the money for you. Now, as this becomes mainstream, especially with the pandemic, which has accelerated the use of these digital payment apps and has accustomed people to transact in that manner, right? Cash has almost, and I don't want to say it has become obsolete because it hasn't, but it's almost been done away with by the masses. Now, I know that subscribers to this channel understand what cash means. Cash is what prevents from the overlords, right? The people in power, the central bankers, etc., that elite crowd, from having sole possession of individuals. Where if everything had become digitalized, or digitized, I should say, then they could stop you from accessing your account or from making a payment because you might have violated a law or something like that, right? But since we still have cash in circulation, people can get that cash and go ahead and still transact, right? Because they don't have to depend on bank accounts. They can still use the cash. So when you look at it from that perspective, there's a reason why cash is still in existence. But as people become more accustomed to, these payment methods of transacting, you hear my dog in the background. As people are becoming more used to these kinds of payment methods, they forget about cash and the reason why cash is there, especially with the younger generation, right? And as we're bringing up these younger generations, and they're used to these modes of payment transactions, they won't see the need for using cash at all. And that's something to keep in mind on. Now, the Federal Reserve on Thursday released their report on the CBDC and its stance on it, which their stance was neutral, right? They just pointed out pros and cons of using a CBDC, and it was a 40-page document. And they're going to wait for public comment. Obviously, from my perspective, I think that a CBDC is basically putting a stamp and an end to your freedoms. Because now, this CBDC will be monitored by the central bank, and they'll be able to see your transactions, where you spend your money, how you spend your money, how often do you spend your money. And there is a very slippery slope that comes with that. Now, George Gammon has done videos on CBDCs, and I highly recommend that you go check them out. And he breaks down what are the possibilities that can happen with the CBDC. And folks, let me tell you, a CBDC is not something you want to mess around with. Sure, it provides a lot of benefits. But if you're talking about transitioning to a method of payment that's going to fundamentally change the infrastructure of the payment systems, it's going to be different. And this is not what I'm saying. This is what they're saying, right? Let me look at this right here. A CBDC could fundamentally change the structure of the U.S. financial system, altering the roles and responsibilities of the private sector and the central bank, the report says. So this would implement major change. And of course, the people who understand, right? Especially these people like George Gammon who understand it at a higher level, understand that this is not going to benefit you or me. It might seem like it may be sold that way, and it may initially start off that way. But in the end, it's going to lead to a world of serfdom. Here it says one primary difference between the Fed's dollar and other digital transactions is that current digital money is a liability of commercial banks, whereas the CBDC would be a Fed liability. Among other things, that would mean the Fed wouldn't pay interest on money stored with it. Though because it is riskless, some depositors may prefer to keep their money with the central bank. It will be sold like the next thing since sliced bread. But let me tell you something. This whole cryptocurrency revolution that's happening is incentivizing people to get involved because of the possibilities of making large sums of money. And if you make it fun to do and exciting and interesting and let the private industry take hold of it, and everyone who's interested in making a lot of money, which who isn't, are going to want to become a part of that. And that's gearing up the masses in the population to accept and be more willing to accept the CBDC because of the cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology. And folks, this is where it's headed. And I believe while you can make, listen clear, if you're involved with cryptocurrency and you're invested, right, as of now, take your profits. Because what's coming down the pipeline in the next couple of years, you don't know what's going to happen. Take your profits and use those profits to prepare. Because you can't eat crypto, you can't eat gold, right? So do what's best to prepare for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, you see what's happening with the supply chain. You see what's happening with the shortages. You see what's happening economically, politically, geopolitically. Folks, this is not a game. And I'm telling you, you need to prepare. Because at the end of the day, you can't eat this stuff. But what's important is being able to be self-sufficient. And so, like I've said, this year is a pivotal year of preparation. While you still have the freedoms afforded to you and still have supplies to be able to get while they're still here. So this is going to be an interesting next couple of years, to say the least, especially coming into the midterm elections and the presidential elections in 2024. So use this time to prepare, folks. Don't squander it. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.